Hey y'all, what it do? How y'all be? Come on in the room. I already know what it is, what time it is, what time it really is. Why does the screen look extra bright today? Um, Hi. Let's see. Okay. Happy Thursday. Happy Thankful Thursday. I'm excited to be here with you guys, and we're gonna get this thing going. We're gonna do this thing. How was your day? My day was pretty good so far. I am uh it wasn't too bad at work today. So I feel good about that. And can y'all believe today is September 30th? Like, I just need y'all to understand, like, do y'all really get today as September 30th? Why does that matter? It's the last day of September. Like, let's talk about it. We got October, November, December. Like, literally, people kind of falsely said that, like, when we hit September, it was the last quarter of the year, but really, we are literally at the last quarter. Like, this is the end of the year. So it's exciting. Yeah, I think it's exciting. I'm excited about I'm excited about what this means. I'm excited about, reflections. Like, I'm always big on us reflecting on what's going on and how the first part of the year went. Like, to really think about it and say, wow, this is how I've grown. This is where I'm holding on. I'm still working on. These are places I'm working on. Um, this is where I want to be. This is where I've come from. It's really good to be reflective that way, right? So I love it. Plus, like, I just feel like I don't want to, like, I'm also a component of somebody that doesn't do the toxic positivity, right? The whole idea that, just because I wish a thing to be true, um, it doesn't mean that it means that it's going to happen. Meaning, for example, I want today to be a good day, but just because I want it to be a good day doesn't mean it's going to happen that way. So, um, I definitely try to be, what's the word I want to use? Realistic, but also affirmative about what my expectation is in setting my day, right? And so it's important to make sure that we are um, having these, we're setting our tones, and then we're like kind of reassessing things, right? If I said so far my year I wanted to start doing affirmations, if I have not done it, the goal is not to beat myself up about it. The goal is to say, okay, I still want to do that. Let me put that on the list. Or if I have started doing affirmations, say, oh wow, beginning of the year I didn't do them, and now all of a sudden I am doing them a couple of times a day. That's good. And then maybe I want to do a little bit more. So just the assessment, right? Measurable, real things. So I cannot believe it. Like, really, tomorrow is October 1st. So really excited about the fact that we're finishing up this series. I thought about extending it into October because it's definitely so much more we could talk about with this anxiety series. However, don't want to get um I do want to go to something different. So I will continue to do that. Hey mom. Um I'll continue to end it. Because I had that one day that I didn't come on, unfortunately, that means that it just means that I won't be able to cover. I didn't get a chance to cover everything I wanted to, which is fine. It's just perfectly fine. I'm not gonna, it's too much to cover completely. This topic to completely cover it is just not really possible. So I just wanted to hit on some of the major parts. So I'm kind of combining today into 2 days because it's the last day. Um, Before I start, I want to say normally I give at the end of a series, I kind of give suggestions on how to manage things without, the unconventional ways, or like, homeopathically, or what can you do in your own time to manage things. Um, Understand that the reason that I didn't go into depth about how to manage anxieties because everybody is different. what might work for one person doesn't necessarily work for someone else. And a large part of managing long term anxiety disorders is going to get the correct tools and having a treatment plan and therapy and getting the support that you need and resources, right? So that's the only reason I haven't thrown out some things. Of course, when I talked about anxiety, um, just like day to day anxiety, I can give you certain, like I talked about breathing techniques. I talked about, you know, voicing and having conversations with people. Hey, Auntie Cynthia, I talked about, you know, being able to walk, do some exercise, get out, and you know, it's so many different things you can do to help with like general basic anxiety that you feel from time to time. That's one thing. But when you have a disorder, I don't want to come on diagnosing that. I just wanted to share certain things, educate so that you know if you have it and know that you don't have to suffer in silence. You understand that there are ways to manage it. I had someone say something the other day that was just it was really good to hear, and they were saying that they dealt with extreme PTSD, and that with help they were able to manage it, and it's much better. And that's the type of things I want people to share, because guess what, somebody might think, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody because there's nothing they can do to help me. I've been suffering with this for a long time. I'm not going to say anything. And therefore, they just continue to suffer. And my goal is to bring light to that there can be some help. I don't know what the help is going to be, but that there is help available. So, all right, guys. So I'm gonna if you did not see what the title of today was, I'm gonna hit two different topics, and it might seem like they are not related, but kind of, because they aren't, but they both are anxiety disorders. So I want to talk about them, and I'm going to talk about why they matter to you, or why they should matter. I feel like my screen is extra bright today. I apologize for this reflection. I'm not taking my glasses off. So here we go. OCD and phobias. These are the two last things that we did not talk about, that I didn't get a chance to touch on. And the good part about them, both of them are pretty simple. Don't get me wrong, they're much more complex. I can't minimize them down, but I can touch on both of them and kind of give you a real life example of them, so you understand that they're both under the anxiety headline, right? So I'm going to start with OCD first. Now, we've heard of that word OCD, and it's gotten really mainstream, right? Super mainstream. And so what does that mean? When you hear about it, you definitely you kind of hear about it in a casual form, right? It's not it's not as stigmatized, right? People kind of say, oh yeah, my OCD this, my OCD that. So I'm going to define it, and then I'm going to give you some facts about it and some signs and symptoms that you might deal with it, and what it means to be an actual disorder. So on a basic level, and we'll just give a definition. Psychology definition is, it's a mental disorder in which people experience unwanted and repeated thoughts, feelings, images, or obsessions, and engage in behaviors or compulsions in response. I'm going to say it again. A mental disorder in which people experience unwanted, repeated thoughts, feelings, images, or obsessions, and engage in behaviors or mental compulsions in response. So, somebody who has OCD oftentimes carries out a compulsion in a temporary um, way to eliminate that feeling, that anxiety, and so it's something that a lot of times we all have come up with. Hey, JC, and we've dealt with. The difference is the severity of it, right? I think all of us have dealt with OCD in some way. I think a lot of times you'll hear an example of people talking about OCD is like, oh yeah, my OCD won't allow me to like walk in the kitchen with the dishes in the sink. Like, I know I told the kids to do it, but I can't stand them in the sink, so I have to clean them. And so because they can't stand that, they have to do it, right? Um, Hey, Auntie Nisi. Yeah, and it's very, very common, but there are different severity levels of it, right? So now it's like, okay, well, if you have bouts of OCD, that's something that you can figure out how to manage. But if you have a disorder where this is something that, I think the definition for disorder is something that occupies your time more than an hour a day, which I thought was very interesting that that was the definition, more than an hour a day. So I guess it definitely can be, um, it can definitely be, uh, I just feel like I've probably obsessed to something for more than a day, for more than an hour a day. So that's just interesting that that makes that um, a disorder. But like, I'll give you an example. I used to go down the street and I used to touch every light pole, or I would go down the street and like skip like the things, the sidewalk thing, or step on it like every other one. And it was like I had to do it, right? And that's probably, again, very minor, but I'm just saying that it was like a need. I felt like something was wrong if I didn't touch one of the, poles or whatever. I'll give you another example. I don't know if I said this example the other day or not for something else, but I used to have this thing when I used to get in a car. I think I did talk about this, about anxiety. I used to get in a car, and when I would get in the car, I would lock the door like multiple times. And I remember it took somebody to point out to me that I locked that door once I was in the car, like the electric lock. I locked it like 10 different times. 10 different times. And I didn't realize I was doing that so much. But what it stemmed from was a reaction to the fact that there had been a lot of carjackings on the news. And they would talk about women walking at night and being ultra aware of your environment. And so even people being jacked at the stop lights, right? So I just was like, I think that was a little bit of anxiety. So I would have this OCD about locking it. And I knew after the first time it's locked, but I just like, just in case it's not, I would do it. I think one time somebody told me I did it 10 times and I didn't even realize it in a car trip 10 times. So that's a point and a form. If you guys ever watched that show Monk, you ever watched Monk? Like I thought Monk was a very good character example of what it looked like to have extreme OCD and how it obsessed his life. And it was actually really good to watch it because um, it was brought on by his wife's death. He was not like that before his wife tragically was killed. And so I believe that that is definitely something. Ooh, hold on. You said it's going in and out, Auntie DC? I wonder what that could be. I hope it's not my internet. Let me know if it's still acting like that. It looks like it's continuous on my side, so I hope it comes up better as I'm going. But yeah, like with Monk, like it took over his life, and it took over his life, and so you said I'm hoping that yes means it's better. And if so, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Auntie Nisi. And it took over his life because of this traumatic event, and that's how a lot of the OCD things start. I love how you say, Auntie Nisi, that you worked with people with OCD. You definitely have seen upfront what it can do when it's at its extreme levels, right? And so it's interesting though. I want to give some more definition. A lot of times we just say OCD, but what is let's break it down. It's obsessive compulsive disorder. Obsessive compulsive disorder. It includes the presence of obsessions, compulsions, or both. Obsessions are considered reoccurring thoughts, urges, or images that are unwanted, and they cause anxiety or distress. And then compulsions are repetitive behaviors or mental acts that someone feels compelled to do in response to obsession, and they have to do it a certain way. Like if you see somebody that has to touch things a certain way every single time, it almost seems like they can't control it. It's like I have to do that. Or have you ever seen people that like they literally the way that they clean is a certain way. Like if I don't do this plus this and that, it's not clean. Yes, I know you did it that way. It looks clean, but if I don't do it, or I've heard people say, I don't wash my own dishes, I don't eat off of them, which is always funny to me because then they go out to eat. And I'm always like, I worked in a restaurant before, so you trust the people do the right thing with the dishes. but you'll go and you dip your knife and you dip and I understand it's what they have to do in their mind to make themselves feel better, but it's that specific way that they have to do it in order to continue to go. And so again, I think that there are so many different ways that OCD can touch your life. And it can be triggered again a lot by traumatic issues that happen, like a death, a divorce, physical abuse, emotional abuse. All of those things can trigger it. And literally, there. Sometimes I think this is really good that I talk about the phobias next. It can induce a phobia. Like, for example, you heard of a germaphobe. Well, sometimes when people have OCD, it causes them to have to clean so much so that they're scared of any type of germ that can happen. And so then they go overboard and they feel like if they don't, they're not even able to sleep. They're like obsessed with the thoughts that something can happen and they're going to get a germ that's going to make them sick and die. It's something always extreme. So you see how those things, two things that can connect. Yeah, Auntie Nisa, you said like constantly checking doors and windows to make sure they're locked. Yes, that's the thing. Like I told you about with the car door locks. I didn't realize I was locking the door every single time, sometimes 10 times during a car ride. And I realized at that moment that that's what I was doing. So it's definitely something that we've all seen and experienced. Again, it's just about the severity of it, right? How hard it goes and what we can do. Now, treatment for this is, again, not something that I want to get into because most of it includes therapy, medication, or both, and just a treatment plan in which it can be managed, right? I don't know if it can go away, but I definitely believe it can be managed. And I believe that it can be managed to the severity level, right? And so it's just, again, talking about it to make sure we understand that it's not something you have to live and suffer in silence with. Here's another example. Here's an example of obsession. Constant thoughts about whether the oven was turned on or off, even after you checked once. Oh my God, I've done that so many times. Like, do you smell gas? You smell gas? You make sure the stove on. Make sure we do, because people's houses burned down. You know what I'm saying? So you just like, sometimes you get like really obsessed about that, right? And you say it over and over again. Or I ask my son, "You sure you did your homework?" He's like, "Mom, you've asked me 10 times." And I'm like, well, that idea that I just want to check. I just need to check. I'm slightly obsessed with that, right? That's the obsession. Here's and then obsessions usually will cause like these strong, uncomfortable feelings, and that's where the anxiety parts come in. That's why this is under anxiety, because that's what it induces you to do things, and that's where you have the compelled act, which is the compulsion, right? Here's an example of compulsion: repeatedly checking to confirm that the oven is off. Keep on checking to see it's off. So you have that constant thought about the oven if it's on off, but then you keep on repeating the check to make sure. And sometimes you'll do something crazy like leave work. I've seen somebody say, "I don't know, I'm gonna go home and I'll make sure that stove is really off." And it's like, wow, that's how it could be disruptive. And then the relief would come is when they've actually done the compulsion and say, "Okay, now I know the stove is off." But the bad part about it is that those responses have been strengthened for the future, meaning if it ever happened where they went home and it wasn't turned off, now they're like, "See, this is why I had to check over and over and over again." And it strengthens that need to be compulsive. So that's how things can get out of control with that. It can get completely out of control with that really quickly. And again, it can become, if it's something that it interferes with your life, you definitely need to seek some help for that, right? Because it can be definitely intrusive, that obsessive thoughts. You ever get to a point where you never really get to rest your mind because of the obsessive thoughts? Hey, Trey. And so, that's what we want to be careful with. It's just something that we don't really think about, right? Even I know I've been in the cars with people that obsessed about the idea of being pulled over by the police, and they might not be doing anything wrong, but it's just this fear and anxiety about if the police gonna pull us over. And I used to like, what, what's your problem? And then I realized our experiences were different. They had been pulled over quite a bit. So for them, they could be doing nothing and get pulled over. And now that's anxiety here. And so now they're checking and they're going below the speed level and they're doing this and they're checking their mirrors and making sure. And I'm like, what are they doing all that for? And it's because that's how they are obsessed with the thought of that. And those are the compulsions that they're driven to do. And then for me, I would never have those fears because that wasn't my same experience, right? So yeah, so that's the OCD part of it. Oh, this is interesting. That's my work phone, and I'm not gonna get up and turn it off. Hopefully they don't call because I'm off work. I don't know what they're doing. See, y'all talking about this is real time life. You hear me? There's nothing about this that is fake at all. Uh, but yeah, so when that's kind of like all I want to do with OCD. Did anybody have any questions? Anything that they wanted to bring up? Anything that they had to say that would actually add to the conversation before I move on to the phobia part? Okay. All right. Well, then I'm going to go on. If you guys have anything, you can put those comments in the chat and I'll go ahead and make sure that I read them and address it. Okay, so phobia. Just give a definition. You guys probably all know what phobia is, and I was very surprised that this is under the anxiety disorders. But a phobia is a type of anxiety disorder that causes an individual to experience extreme, irrational fear about a situation, a living creature, a place, or object. Oftentimes, when a person has a phobia, it shapes their lives in ways that they avoid what they consider to be dangerous. So I know you guys have all heard of phobias. And I just was like, wow, this is under anxiety. But I guess if you think about it, when you have a phobia, your anxiety is at an all-time high. And I just didn't even connect the two. You see how that you don't even think about it? And I realized that, oh, wow, because I have some phobias. And I know we all have some phobia, right? I don't care how strong you all think you are. Everybody has a phobia of something. And so, the difference is that having a phobia is not the thing that's bad. The severity of it, the frequency of it, and how it controls you in your life, how it, if it takes over. And so a lot of times when you experience a phobia, you have extreme panic and fear, rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, trembling, strong desire to escape. Okay. And so it definitely is something that we all have witnessed either personally or somebody that we know. There are so many different types of phobias, right? And I don't want to go into all the different phobias, but if I want to give and just some that are very common, there's the fear of animals such as spiders, snakes. I think I have both spider and snake phobias. Bugs. I know a lot of people that have the fear of bees, wasps, anything that flies, roaches. You know, a natural environment such as heights, or I know a lot of people would fear heights. I even have a slight fear of heights, right? Mine is not extreme because I still do things that are really high, but there are times when that thing hits me. It's like I'll go somewhere high up and I'm like, wow, so I do have a fear of heights. Mine is not debilitating enough where I won't do something. It's just that I get reminded sometimes when I go really high, like, I don't really like this. I don't feel, and then I'll know because my chest gets a little tight. I'll get a little nervous. It begins, those feelings of anxiety start to heighten when I'm in that atmosphere. So again, some people, severities are completely different when it comes to things. So I talked about heights. Another one, I said thunderstorms. I know people, grown men that's 70 years old that have, and again, y'all know I don't differentiate. Everybody and their fears are valid. So I'm not going to make fun of somebody because they have a fear. That's not what we do. I know sometimes we do that because people are just silly, sometimes mean, and think everything's funny. But when somebody has a fear, I don't care if you think they should or shouldn't. That is not your responsibility to make fun of them. Their fear is valid. You don't know what happened. Usually something that triggers phobias is an event happened, usually at a young age. I know people have a lot of fear of cats, which is so funny to me. Not to say that a cat can't hurt you. Certain somebody on this live might have one fear of a cat. Not to say a cat can't hurt you, but they'll be afraid of it like it's gonna kill them. And it's always funny to me. And always, every single time I know somebody who have a fear of a cat, they always talk about something that happened when they were really young. And it's like whatever that was, it's like etched into their consciousness that cats equal scary, cats equal violence and danger. And so I'm joking about it now because y'all know I've had cats, but I understand and I respect when someone has a fear of it. I'm not going to bring a cat around them just to make them feel uncomfortable. I might have before in my immaturity, and I apologize if I've done that, but I understand the realism of how real it is. Even if I don't think it's something you should be fear of, like you could be scared of this lip gloss and I bring it close to you and you start screaming and I can think it's silly. But if that's really what you're scared of, then I should really respect that and say, wait, that's real. You really have a fear of lip gloss. What happened? And whether or not you told me what happened, that's real for you. And I need to respect that, right? Auntie Nisa, you said, I think that since all the gun violence on the expressway, I've become very scared of driving now when I'm looking at all the cars with tinted windows in fear. Wow, that's a really good one. And that's a really good example. It's funny because I was telling somebody the other day, I was driving and I was like, I wonder which expressway had the most shootings. And I was on 57. And I know they had 94, and I remember they said 57, but like south of a certain thing. And I remember thinking, like, maybe I can go the other way. So that's a real thing. When you see those things and you get to a point where whether somebody thinks it's rational or irrational to you, it's real. And so, you do get to a point where you get a little scared of certain indicators. And like you said, all cars with tinted windows, man, that's real, Auntie Nisi. That's real. Oh, 290, they have it like that too, Auntie Nisi? I didn't even know. See, I don't watch the news hardly, but I didn't know that. Yeah, that's scary too, because you could just be driving and something like that happened and you're an innocent victim. I think that's just some of the most, I mean, that's some of the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then Auntie Nisi, you said you have anxiety attacks when you went back up your back stairs. Is it because people used to get robbed and stuff, Auntie Nisi, or they used to have violence in the neighborhood? Yeah, that's another thing. I'll say this: when I used to walk from this one apartment building from my car at night, I remember I used to take my keys. I don't have any keys with me, but I would I'm gonna try to do a demonstration. I would put my keys in between my fingers like this because somebody taught me that if somebody tries to attack you from the back, if you do like this, you'll be prepared to attack them. And again, that's like something that people don't realize. That's something that you form around that event. And so I was like, always, just in case something happened. Oh, fear heights. Oh, I didn't even realize you have a fear of heights. So just going up your back stairs. See, different severities. Like my fear of heights when I was about to do a zip line thing, which was like 1,000 feet in the air. You like, well, have you scared of heights? Why would you do that? Because I forget I'm scared of heights sometimes. Like my severity is different. Sometimes I can scared and I'll still go do it. But I didn't realize, sometimes it's some things I won't do. Like I won't do roller coasters anymore. I'm 40 years old. I'm not doing roller coasters anymore. I don't feel like I have to. And before I felt like a little pressure to do it, I have a thing now. I don't want to do it. Scary movies. I will not watch a scary movie. Stop asking me. Okay? I won't do it. Oh, you okay? And I love it when people think it's funny and cute. That's not cute. Nobody want to be scared. I do not want to be scared. I don't want that stuff in my mind. I don't want to see anybody get hacked uncontrollably. It is not funny to me. It's not amusing to me. I'm not going to judge you for doing it. I don't want to watch it. Now, call that what you might want to, but it's just something I don't want. They're like, you scared? I absolutely am. So maybe that's a phobia. I don't know if that qualifies. I guess for the definition, it would. But like, these are real things, and for you to not be honest about it, I'll even say this. This is a new developed one for me. I don't like going into big, rowdy crowds. Now, in my younger days, I used to love to party. I used to love to go to events that were outdoor where there was a lot of people at. I used to go like going to the Taste of Chicago. If it was something that was a festival, I wanted to go there. I was with all of it. I wanted all the smoke. I wanted to be in the middle of everything. I loved it. I'm an extrovert. I used to love all of that. I loved it, loved it, loved it. But now, it's a like if I was to go to a festival, it would have to be something where I kind of knew the caliber of people. That would matter, right? It would matter to me. It could just be an open event for everybody. It'd have to be I kind of know what the demographic is. If I know that there are people who are, have similar life to me, and I'm sorry that I feel this way, but I do. People that are career people that have, children or business or just have purpose in life, then I would feel better about it. I would be more. This is gonna. If you're not from Chicago, this is gonna sound weird. I would rather go to Ravinia than to just go to a fest that was on the south side or the west side of Chicago. That's just free and open to everybody. Sorry, not sorry. That's just how I feel. I don't go to the Bud Billiken parade anymore because of that reason. It happened years ago. Fight broke out there. I had my young son with me. I said never again. And that used to be that's a parade for kids. And this is not me dogging anything. I'm just telling you about my truth and about what is okay for me and what's not. Right? I'll go to certain concerts that I'm like, okay, I know the type of people that are going to be here. I feel good. Now, anything can happen. You can't prevent certain things, but I do very much screen what I do. But I do not like. I went to Vegas this year, and I realized there was a lot of people there. Like it was in April, and I was very like, "Ooh, it's a lot of people here." And it's so funny. That's never bothered me before, but it bothers me now. I have other theory about why that is as well too. But it's just you just realize what things are so that you avoid. And the reason I'm talking about this because of the definition. It says you will shape your lives to avoid certain things. Certain things I don't do anymore, or I avoid strongly because it's not something that I want to do. Yeah, at least I know I'm still young, but I'm telling you, I mean, when I was young in my 20s, that I wanted all the smoke, even in some of my 30s. Now it's changed for me. I'll give you some more examples. People have phobias of blood, um, injuries. They have a fear of needles. Oh my God, I know a lot of people with fears of needles. Oh my God. And it's and I don't want to say they're irrational because this is a real thing. There are people who have a fear of medical procedures. Now I used to be like, well, man, that's crazy to me because again, before I knew any of this stuff, I was like, how can you have a fear of a medical procedure that's supposed to help you? But then you have to understand whatever their history is with that. Maybe they've had a lot. I know somebody say, hey, I've had 20 surgeries. And every surgery, something happens and your body is weakened. I'm like, oh, so that's not my experience. So I didn't have that fear. Or I know people just have a fear going to the doctor anytime. And then someone told me sometimes, you got to understand some people back in the day, they would go to the doctor and something minor, and they would seem minor, and then they would never come out. Or people's family went to the doctor because of an ache in their back, and they found out they had a tumor or cancer, and they died automatically. And so those type of traumatic events will cause people to have these phobias. So we should not make fun of these phobias. We should take them seriously. We should hear people out and try to understand where they're coming from, right? Um, Another one, there are people, a lot of people have fear of flying. That's a big one. Oh my God. So many people have a fear of flying. I think it's the same way I said I have a fear of driving in the snow, or I'll just say inclement weather. I do not like driving in the snow. I don't even like to drive when it's raining heavily. If it's anything but perfect weather, I don't necessarily want to drive in it. And that's because I've seen cars spin out. I've seen cars hydroplane. My car, it's nothing worse than the feeling of your car sliding from under you without you having control. Hated it, hate it, hate it. So again, that's a phobia, and it was induced for different reasons. So again, don't I know you don't ridicule people for that. I've heard people have fear of um, small spaces. What is it called? See, I had a list of the phobias, but I don't want to go through that because the names don't necessarily matter so much. But um, uh, being in small spaces, that's a real thing. People say they can't feel like they can breathe when they're in those small spaces, riding in elevators, different like that. Um, I know people who have issues with chewing food because they fear choking and dying You like, wait, so you have a fear of chewing food because of things like that? Or now, right now, people have a lot of fear of germs and things because even with COVID, right? That's a real big thing. And rightfully so. You see a lot of people dying and suffering and sick. And so they have a fear that was induced by this pandemic. And so now they have a fear. Oh, thank you, Antonisi. Claustrophobia. That's it. That's a real thing. Um, it's a real thing. But a lot of people become germaphobes because, and they probably, some people are already germaphobes, but a lot of people are even more germaphobes because of the pandemic, right? Knowing that someone that looks perfectly fine can give you some virus that can cause harm to you and or your family can be terrifying, and it can bring a extreme level of fear to someone, and it could develop into a phobia. So don't be surprised if somebody that you know never had a germ phobia thing going on, that now they have developed it and it seems extreme. COVID and it is and still is a traumatic event for a lot of people, right? Um, so now that we know about a lot of the phobias, and there's many more than that, again, what is it? A deep fear and anxiety. It can result in crying, clinging to another person, running to escape the situation, and it could cause people to actively avoid things. I know people who will literally take a train across the country because they won't fly. That's their choice. They can't do it. It's for them. They won't do it. I know people who will, do anything they can to try not to get a shot because they have that fear of needles. It's a thing for them, right? Um, again, a lot of people have phobias. The only problem is when it becomes something that really causes their life to be um, extremely shaped by it. And like that example was Monk. He has not only the OCD, but he also has extreme phobias, and it's very disruptive in that case. That's like extreme way. So if it's something that you can kind of get past, then it may not be a big deal because I think we all have them. But then again, if it's something that is um, definitely that is disruptive to your life, we definitely should go ahead and um, go talk to somebody, go see a therapist, and see what they can do to help you. Because there is treatments that can help you manage it, right? A lot of different treatments that can help you get through those things. So I think that's what I really want to go over. Anybody want to bring up anything else about phobias? If so, put it in the comments, and I definitely will read it. Um, I I really did have I was it's so much more we could talk about with it, but since today is the last day that we're talking about anxiety disorders, I just want to do a recap of everything. There are anxiety, again, is not a bad word. Anxiety is just a response to stress. It is our way that we respond to stress. And it's a way that you can respond to stress, right? And having anxiety at certain levels is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's the level. Again, we don't like to deal in extremes, so having a little anxiety from time to time is not something. Doesn't mean you need to go run to the doctor. It doesn't mean that something's wrong. But if you have extreme anxiety and it is debilitating sometimes, and it causes major disruptions in your life, um, yes, get some help. Do not suffer in silence. Or if you notice somebody who does have a lot of these symptoms and signs and you notice it, maybe you should have conversation with them and let them know. Let's not taunt them. Let's not talk about them. Let's not joke about it. Let's be honest and understand that these are real things that cause people a lot of stress. If you've never seen anybody have an upfront anxiety attack, you don't understand what it feels like. If you've never yourself had an anxiety attack, you don't know what it feels like. And I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound controversial, but I'm saying most people who say they've never had an anxiety attack, I'm going to challenge you. I think most people have had one. Again, it depends on. It doesn't necessarily look like crying and how having like you can't breathe for everybody, but even just an increased amount of anxiety at one particular point in your life, and you in that moment, um, I feel like everybody's felt that at least once. That's just my personal point. I can't prove that, but I just feel like that they have, and so. Um, let's just be more thoughtful about how we react. And if you do deal with it, it's not like you are an alien. It's not like you're somebody that's just on a boat by yourself. Like I say, over 40 million people um, deal with anxiety um, in at some point in their life. So it's nothing to feel bad about. The reality is educate ourselves about it. The reality is to um, realize if it's something that is causing distress to us and it's ruling our life, then we want to go ahead and get the help that we need. We want to go talk to a professional. We want to get the tools that we can to manage anxiety disorders, the ones that are extreme enough, so that we can live full lives and not suffer in silence. You know, this sometimes people pet name, oh, my anxiety or this and that. I understand because you're trying to cope. And I know sometimes we talk about it and it does help take the stigma off of it. But I also don't want you still suffering with it, making it your pet name, and then not actually doing anything to get any help about it, right? We want to be able to say, okay, yeah, this is it, but there is help for it. And you know, yeah, sometimes we joke and things about it, but sis, bro, I want you to get the help you need too. I don't want you just joking about and then just deal with it and think that's just how you have to live. There is a way to manage it better. And again, sometimes getting to the root of that thing, because a lot of times traumatic events have caused the anxiety, the extreme versions of it, and we can talk about it and figure it out, and maybe some resolution in form of treatment and therapy and a plan can get us on the other side of it, right? Maybe you suffer at an 8 or a 9 out of 10, and maybe with treatment and help you can get down to a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. I mean, if I had some 8 or 9 and I'll get down to a 3 or 4, I'm still very happy about that. It just means it's not ruling my life anymore. Now it's just something that's okay. It happens every once in a while. I have tools. I know what to do. I understand how to get myself out of that situation. I understand what it looks like to have a little bit of anxiety. I understand what it's like to have it rule my life. And again, that's general anxiety. I think we talked about PTSD, which is a big one. We talked about performance anxiety, high performance anxiety, which is a real thing. It's not considered a disorder, but I know it's a real thing. We talked about what anxiety looks like in adults and in kids. We talked about the causes, the symptoms, and the signs. We've talked about certain treatment levels. We talked about OCD. We talked about different phobias. We talked about so much. Again, you don't realize how encompassing anxiety is. And again, we couldn't talk about everything in depth, but I'm hoping touching on a little bit of everything caused you guys to get a real good understanding about it. I'm hoping that some of the things that you thought but you weren't sure, or some of the questions you had, have been answered. The goal is again just to educate and let you know that there's help on the other side of this. That you don't have to just suffer. It's not just a daily part of life. Please stop letting people minimize things to you. I don't like it, or I hate. I'm not gonna say what I was about to say. I'm gonna say it. I'm a woman of faith. I believe in God, and I believe God can take away and do anything. But I also believe He's created doctors and He's created medical facilities. So if you have anxiety and it's extreme and it's taking over your life, pray, but also go to therapy. Get deliverance, but also go see a doctor. It does not. You don't have to do one or the other. You don't. You don't. Because guess what? You can still have faith and still say, hey, I need to do what I have to do to make sure I'm good. You can be a person of faith and still go ahead and go to the doctor. It doesn't mean your faith is low because you went to the doctor. And I'm not even just talking about mental health. I'm talking about if you need to go get surgery, go get the surgery, sis. You going to do chemo doesn't mean you have low faith. It does not mean that. So I just want, to make sure that we're getting the help we need. Yes, Auntie Nisi, get the help. Get the help. I just want us to be helped. I mean, especially in our community, we are underserved in this area. I talk about it so passionately because in 2021, and we're about to be in 2022, you still have people that think it's crazy to go to a doctor, or that you're considered crazy because you go. It's still a stigma around it. People still laugh when we talk about stuff like this, and they're the main people that are suffering. And I can tell when people even nervous laugh. They're like, yeah, that's crazy you doing it. And they are laughing like that because they deal with it, but they don't want you to see it because they still don't think it's that, it looks strong for you to deal with it. And y'all know I'm out here for the men too. The ones that think this is just a woman's conversation and doesn't realize that there's real help to be had here. I think everybody deserves to have the gift of therapy in their life. There are a lot of resources to get it for lower cost or for free. If you need any of that, reach out to me. I can give any suggestions out there. But the goal is for us to help people live the best lives possible. And I'm gonna keep talking about it till y'all get tired of it, or I'm gonna keep talking about it till you start realizing, you know what, that girl talks a whole lot, and I don't know if what she's saying is right at first, but you know what, I'm gonna just go see. And in seeing it, if you get some help, then that's all I want. Think I'm annoying, I'll be annoying. But if I can help one person, that's the goal. And I think I'm helping more than one. So I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep doing it till I don't see need for anymore. Um, yes, Auntie Denise, you said you believe that God has given us the ability to help others who suffer. Absolutely. Absolutely. Why do you think some people say my gift is to go to school to become a doctor or to become a nurse, whatever? They did those things to help people. Did they have to go to school to do those things? Absolutely. But that's their gift. They want to help people. So let them help you. Psychiatrists the same way. They went to school to help people because they realized your mind controls everything. Matter of fact, you can get physically sick because your mind is mentally sick. Let's talk about it. We keep talking about this stuff like it doesn't matter and it doesn't affect us. A lot of us are even manifesting. We're manifesting illnesses, whole illnesses in our body. We're manifesting illnesses through unforgiveness in our heart. This stuff is real. This stuff is real. So if you want to sit here and pretend like this doesn't affect you, so be it. I'm not going to sit here and beat you over the head, but I will continue to talk. And I'm hoping that you guys share and that something clicks one day and say, you know what? Maybe I need to get the help. So I love you all. Thank you, Auntie Nisi. You're saying such kind things today. I'm so glad that you are on today to check it out. Please share this with somebody. If you guys are just coming on, I am finishing up. This is the end of our anxiety series. Yay. Boo. Yay. I could definitely went on longer, but I think that I got the point across. And so I think there was a lot of good information. If you missed any parts of this series, go back and watch the replays. All my replays are on Facebook. All my replays are on YouTube as well. If you don't want to be on Facebook, share this with somebody that you know needs it. You can tag them on it, or you can just share it to their page or messenger, or guess what? You can just copy the link and send it in a text message. Let me tell you something. You don't know who's suffering. And sometimes you do know who's suffering. Sometimes you know people who really do need this. So it's not about me. It's about if I say something that can help them, that's all that matters. Right. And sometimes people just need to hear that somebody else is going through it for them to feel heard and seen. Right. So I love you all. I love you guys. You know what I'm going to say? You are enough. You are enough. I'm going to keep on saying it to you. Really believe it. You're enough. You're enough to be an advocate for yourself and to be an advocate for the people that you love, and to take these type of conversations into your households, into your workplaces, and to do the work, and even to do the work for you and be an advocate for yourself. So I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Today is Thursday. I will not see you guys until Tuesday. But until then, have a great weekend. Do something nice for yourself. And until we meet again. Bye.